Good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to day number 5 of the Daily Readings Challenge. I know that I need to slow down by a couple of seconds today because I did not have the YouTube queued and ready to go. So excuse me for being a couple minutes late. It is a very busy morning, but I do want to come on and share our day number 5. It's not our final day. We actually have 7 days of the Daily Reading Challenge. So my name is Waynell Henson. Welcome. You are inside of that Sunday School Girls channel, and we have been together every week. Good morning, Sister Rhonda. Good morning, Sister Grady. Y'all probably nervous. Where is she? I'm here. Y'all know Fridays are very, very busy, but glad to be inside of this challenge with you and just developing good habits as we are in our new quarter of study. This week has been the COGIC edition of the Daily Readings Challenge. As we know, the Power for Living series is following a legacy study in the international series. And so our lessons have not been aligned with some of our other friends. And so this was a second week just for Team COGIC, but I want to thank those of you who have gotten such amazing notes that say, I don't care whose curriculum it is, I enjoy the Word of God, and so you've hung in here with us just as a part of morning devotion as well. Let me just say that as a intro, if you're a newbie here, if it's your first time, let us know in the comments. But also know that this is not a full-blown Bible study. This is literally a very quick devotional. And it is intended to just show you how you can engage personally with daily readings. And you have the opportunity to treat it as a devotion and figure out what's in it for you. And what I'm sharing with you is what I got out of the passage and how it resonated with me. So I'm literally sharing with you in my personal journal what I've written about the passage. And so, again, not theology. I didn't research all this stuff. It's just how the passage sat with me for this morning, which is about walk in your parents' path. Walk in your parents' path. This is Proverbs chapter 1, verses 8 through 15. My child, listen when your father corrects you. Don't neglect your mother's instructions. What you learn from them will crown you with grace and be a chain of honor around your neck. My child, if sinners entice you, turn your back on them. They may say, come and join us. Let's hide and kill someone. Just for fun, let's ambush the innocent. Let's swallow them alive like the grave. Let's swallow them whole, like those who go down to the pit of death. Think of the great things we'll get. We'll fill our houses with all the stuff we take. Come, throw in your lot with us. We'll share the lot of loot. My child, don't go along with them. Stay far from your paths. Good morning, Sister Kathy Gremlin. So glad to have you as a first timer in our Daily Readings Challenge. And again, we're looking at Proverbs today. We've been looking at a lot of passages that have to deal with wisdom this week. So again, this is not a Bible study. I'm going to read to you what I wrote. I said, when I first read this title, I thought, how interesting. This weekend is the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks on our country. I saw a news piece this morning with children who never met their fathers who died in the attack. They did a segment on them as little babies, and 20 years ago, we got to see them as young adults. They showed a number of them side by side with their fathers, and it was uncanny how many of them looked so much like their dads. I thought also about my own father, whose birthday was September 11th. I don't think a day goes by that I don't think about him and quote something that he said. My mother is living, and I'm so blessed to have her to share, and even just to be on the other side of the phone when I have a question. It's interesting the ways that we think about influence and hearing wisdom. The trend of the world today is exactly the opposite. People are persuaded that we know everything, and we can hear from almost no one. This passage is called an exhortation or a warning, and it's actually written to people who are under parental supervision, but there are lots of great principles that I can identify. The first is to listen. To listen. There is a value of fathers and mothers. That value is wisdom. Fathers and mothers have wisdom. I'll try to come off my paper just a bit. But fathers and mothers, and those are not necessarily biological fathers and mothers as I look at how I can apply this passage, but we can learn from those who are older. As I look at this passage, I also identify, I say often that God's word meets us where we are. So although this passage is written to a young person saying, listen to your parent, listen to your parent, can understand that from having people over me, but I'm also at the point in my life where I can understand the value of being willing to share wisdom. So yes, we want to listen, but maybe you're someone like me who identifies with the fact that there are people behind you who are listening, watching, and need to know. And they don't just need, we're not just wise because of our ages or our opinions. Wisdom is about living and giving godly advice. I also said that attitude matters. I must be willing to hear. Being willing to hear doesn't necessarily mean that I agree, but as a premise, I need to know that I just don't know everything. I must be careful and watch to hear and to catch wisdom, even as I sort through and make my own life decisions. I'm also to pay attention and don't reject wisdom. Don't dismiss it as having no value before I hear and understand the full scope. Sometimes there are nuggets that may not make sense in the moment, but they are things that I can tuck away. The passage tells me to never forget. I also look at environment and influence. And I just said that I need to watch the influence of people and watch environments that people attempt to move me into, that I should reject evil counsel and evil intent. I I made a note here. I have several friends, but there are two in particular. Like when I have something going on, if there's something that concerns me, or if it's upsetting for me or whatever, I literally have two friends, and one is the friend I call the talk me off the ledge friend. There's the other one who is going to push me over the cliff. And so just kind of the idea of understanding environment and influence and knowing, are you with the talk you off the ledge friend? Are you with the friend who's going to say, let's do it, let's go get them? So who is around me? What do they encourage me to do? It is possible that I may have to make evaluations of my environment and the people in it. There are times that we have to either manage the time that we have with certain friends, or maybe even get to places in life where we have to cut ties altogether. With respect to the people around me, I should be able to answer, do they align with my purpose? Do they align with my values? And this doesn't mean that I may have friends who don't make the right decisions, but this is more about how I allow them and their ideas to influence me. Do those people pour into me? And what do they influence me to do? If I have people who are not good influences, I am not to entertain them. Don't even give them a little attention. I am to turn my back on them and completely disconnect myself, to run from them. I should be aware of agendas that propose harm to others for personal gain, and watch worldly voices that call us away or call me away from what I know into the ways of the world. And that was huge for me, because there are so many, like this passage seems fairly, intuitive. Hey, come on, let's go hide and let's, jump people when they come out. Let's hide in the bushes. Let's go rob houses. Like that is very overt. But for me, this passage is about the attentiveness and the ability to discern, so that it may not be as overt as that, but whatever it is, if I am being pulled into an agenda that is about a worldly opportunity or into the ways of the world, I must watch that. I also said, watch we and us. And anybody who knows me knows I get real nervous with we. Oh, I got an idea. We should do X, Y, Z, because we always seems to mean a lot of work that Waynell can do. And so I have a we and us aversion. That's just me. But here's the way I said it this morning. I have to watch we and us, because we as a collective will not stand before God in judgment. I will stand as an individual. So I need to watch we and us buy-in, we and us opportunities when I have to stand as an individual. So if I cannot stand as an individual in good conscience, then we don't have a deal. I should also lead with pleasing God and not pleasing people, because people's ideas, their ideas may not be God ideas. I notice that this passage is written as an imperative. So it's not a little idea, hey, I think, when you feel like it, you should listen to good counsel. If it's a good day and it sounds like what you want to hear, you should connect with it. No, this is an imperative saying, listen, don't reject it, hold on to it. You don't know when you're going to need it. Just hold on to it. It doesn't even say take it all and do it all today. It's saying just don't turn a deaf ear when you have wisdom coming. So I asked the question, what makes us reject or not listen to wisdom? Verse 7 is not printed, but it tells us that fools despise wisdom. And so I said that sometimes we misjudge the vessel based on their humanity. So, we look at a person and, well, they don't have it all buttoned up and they're not perfect and she's a woman just like I am. Got it? That may be true, but it does not necessarily invalidate the wisdom that may be in the moment that they are sharing with me. Wisdom gifts may not be as technologically advanced, but their voices have value. So I was very blessed to have my grandparents, my great grandparents, both parents in the home. And even now, there are lots of folks around me who, nope, they don't do all this computer stuff. They're not on social media, but when you listen, there's a lot in their experience. And so I just think we have to be careful, not as we move quickly and we're able to adapt and do all these things, to not leave the people that are with us, that are ahead of us on the journey. That's the best way to say it. Let me see. Oh, we don't have to love their instruction. Sometimes we reject wisdom because we don't love the instruction, because it's counter to our own ideas or counter to the desires that we may have. And that is largely, in my opinion, driven by pride. And pride we have to be careful of, because pride will cause us to fall. But pride is that thing that will make us think, or make me think, that I have everything all figured out. So I've got to watch attitudes of pride. And the last thing, why don't I, and this is my devotion. So why don't I or why would I reject or not listen? Sometimes we just don't like to be called out on our stuff. We don't like it when people, let us know, hey, that wasn't right. You didn't handle that right. You didn't say that right. You didn't do that right. You didn't think through that right. Because it always feels like such a personal attack. But again, people who love you, and that's the thing, like in this passage, it's saying parents. And again, I didn't even just identify that as my biological parents. But when I think parents, I'm thinking those who have experience in a thing, that are ahead of me on a journey. That's one qualifier. I'm looking for people who are godly. That's another qualifier. But I am also looking for people who love me. So when I look at a parent in here, I just assume that a parent who loves a child is going to reinvest in them by sharing that wisdom. I loved the way verse 9, was written in the Message Bible. And it says that when I hear, when I listen, when I take this wisdom, when I kind of store it up, I may not need it today, but I can store it up. It is like wearing the crown, where their counsel, like a winning crown, like rings on your finger. And I just go back to the fact that I had amazing parents. I had an amazing father. My mom is fantastic. But literally now, the things my brother and I talked about this week, he said, he's got some stuff going on right now. He said, I just think about what Dad would have said. And I know that is, we were kind of reflecting in, would he be proud? But also just knowing that today he's saying, I'm moving the way that I'm moving, and I'm thinking through the ways that I am. And I'm able to make these decisions as a husband and as a father in my own space because of the investment of a parent. So I love that verse. That's how it made me feel. My final thought was that I personally am a continuous learner. I'm a lifelong learner. The fear of the Lord begins with wisdom. And we know that from Proverbs. And here's what I said. I can get wisdom if I can be and remain teachable. I can put myself around wise people. There are people who know more than me, and I have to be okay with that. I can hear and I can learn from them, but most of all, I can respect those individuals, and I can have and live in a humility that allows me to hear and receive wisdom. So that was my thought on this passage this morning. None of you all shared anything about what you got out of the passage this morning? Oh, come on. Did you read it? What did you get out of it? You can share it in the comments. And also go ahead. Please click that thumbs up like button while you're in here. We're kind of low this morning on those. But share with me what you learned. Go ahead and drop your gratitude this morning. I guess this morning I am grateful for the voices of wisdom that are around me, and not just my parents. There are literally wonderful people that God I know has put around me. And when I look at, I look at how people are in my life for different reasons. And so there are different people who literally speak to different areas in my life. And I hear that. And they're not all the same. And, they don't all move. They don't have the same experiences, but I listen for their voices in those spaces where I value and can use the value of their experience. And I'm glad to have them. Mother Otis says, Generation Z, you can tell them things, but they have so much to say and analyze what you say. They can know that it's for their good. Mother, that is a whole conversation. And I think it is indicative of, I guess that's why I put it that way, like of all of us, like at some level, like even looking at the humanity of an individual and making sure that that's not the reason that we reject. So I know I'm over time today. Mother Otis, you got me on this statement here. It's interesting because one thing I will say is, and it's not a fault. I actually talked to one of my friends about this the other day. Something has changed in the world because this passage is based on a premise that there is like this dividing line in the generations. And somewhere along the way, somebody, some set of parents somewhere has blurred the line to the point that, yeah, it is true. A lot of young people almost view themselves as peer to their parents, and how we talk. And, they don't like to be asked questions. I even know a young person who said to a parent a couple of weeks ago, I just don't think you need to raise your voice when you talk to me. Well, wait a minute. Now, I'm not saying that the parent needs to be abusive and yell, but what I am saying is that I do think we have to be careful. And God knows I'm trying to be careful in this conversation because I don't have biological children. I don't. But I do know that I am observing as an auntie, as a godmother, I am observing the danger of making young people our friends. And I also know the danger of what that is when we are creating spaces where people cannot hear and cannot be teachable. So I've tried to say that in the most delicate way possible, and I'm over my 15 minutes. So let's go ahead and pray. Sister Annie says that she's grateful for the elders willing to teach others through their experiences, and you're grateful to be open to the teaching. I love that. Brother Robert says, I'm grateful for the people God has put here on this earth to spread the word, inspirational words. Oh, yes, that's beautiful. I'm grateful for a mind that wants to learn. Thank you, Sister Pat Perry. All right, let's pray, and we're going to go to our day. Father, thank you for this time and this space and this opportunity. Thank you for this open platform to share your word. Thank you that as we go into our day, we take your word with us. God, your word shows us those areas in our lives where we can be better. And God, as a premise, all of us are every day learning and seeking ways that we can be better. We know that the fear of you begins with wisdom. And so, God, we seek today to fill ourselves and surround ourselves with the right kinds of people, with wise voices, with wisdom gifts. And God, we seek to be people who live quality lives such that we are in a position that we can be those voices that will give wisdom. God, help us to live in a way that we can hear from others and that others can hear from us, that our ways that we live don't discredit the word that we preach or the word that we study, but that we take these things and we grow them and that we're made better. God, I pray today that you will help us make good decisions about the people who are around us. Help us to know and to discern the voices. Help us to discern every opportunity that's put before us, even when it seems like there may be gain. God, if it does not align with your will, if it is about worldly gain, if it's attached to worldly principles, help us to learn to reject those things. Help us to learn to hear and receive right wisdom. Help us learn to reject and distance ourselves from the people, the places, the things where we should not be. God, help us to know that we do not know it all. And at no point in our lives should we be at a point that we cannot hear from someone. So God, today, thank you that you're putting right people around us, right voices around us. Thank you today that you're with us as we go into the balance of our day, not knowing what is in front of us, but knowing that you are with us. I thank you now that you're being everything that we need you to be in this day. God, I pray for every family this weekend as we go into this September 11th weekend, those who were impacted by the attacks, and even the rest of us as we watched on and we think and we reflect about what that time meant in our country, that you will help us. God, even that you will pull us back into that same space of unity and prayer that we felt in that time, that we will not just call on you in those difficult times of uncertainty, but that we will remember the unity and the prayers that we felt in this land. God, I pray today that you'll meet every person at the point of their need. We love you. We give you glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you all so much. Lunchtime Live is at 12:15. See you then. Bye-bye.